Hello, members of the VC and everybody else out in YouTube land. Just checking in with a video and another record store day in the books here last Saturday. So I've been watching the last few days a lot of videos of people showing what they picked up Saturday. Everybody seen so far seems pretty happy. They got what they wanted. Seems to have all had a good time, and that's great and wonderful. I went to wasn't sure really right up to the last minute whether I was going to go this year or not. Sort of a last second decision because I was out running some unrelated errands and thought, well, what the hell. But I don't know about you all personally, but I'm a little bit over record store day. I did pick up some things I'll show in a few minutes here, but I think I'm gonna not go anymore, at least not on the day of the event, which, again, I say that now. Come November for Black Friday or come next April, I may very well be like, oh, records, got to get out and get those records. So who knows? But for now, it's just kind of the novelty and the fun has decreased dramatically for me on it. And that's been coming for a few years actually. So up to recent years, I went to every record store day event, Black Friday and the April event. I went to the first time I went was actually the second year of Record Store Day. I didn't know it was only 2 years old at the time until a couple of 2 or 3 years later. But I had heard about it somewhere. At that point, I didn't really know a whole lot about it. I didn't wasn't aware of the Record Store Day website or the list, or I think I had heard that there were special releases just that day. That wasn't really what I was interested in. I just one of the record stores out here. I guess they put something on Facebook, or I don't remember how I heard about it, but they were saying, Record Store Day, plus we're going to have live music, free food, and our non-record store regular stock's going to be 20% off. And I go out to a couple of three record stores around here that I go to on a fairly regular basis anyway. So thought that sounded fun. I went out and they did have the record store day stock, which I don't know what record store day started. I can't remember, but this is probably 2009, 2010, something like that, the second year. And the record store day stuff was a lot less back then than the hundreds of titles that it's become in the years since. I kind of flipped through it, just sort of casual curiosity, I guess. I don't remember. There was a Temptations record. There was something by Iggy Pop and the Stooges. I think it was a John Lennon thing. Can't really remember now, 12 or 13 or whatever years later, but I didn't get any of that. I I think I got a couple of Funkadelic albums from the store's regular stock. Uh, Sat there and listened to some local crappy band for a few minutes, ate a free hot dog, and went on my way. Well, the next year, which was the third year of Record Store Day, by that time I had learned about the website, learned about the list, printed off the list, combed through it, picked out all the things that I really wanted, and I was one of those people. I know a lot of people make fun of that, you're crazy and all that, but I was one of those people that for the next several years got there really early in the morning to get a good spot in line, and it's kind of a pain because you're sitting there at 5 in the morning thinking, what the hell am I doing? The store's not open till 9 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, be sitting here for 3 or 4 hours. But it was also kind of a sense of community, a lot of fun. Through the years, people would be there hanging out. Some of those people got there the night before or the day before or midnight or whatever, and inevitably some people would go off and get donuts and coffee and bring them back and be passing them out to everybody. And every year you new people you'd see, but you'd also see the same faces that had been there the year and the year and the year before, and sort of, hey, you kind of catch up and people just hanging out, having fun, talking about what they're hoping to get off the list and all. So it was fun. And I had did that and I enjoyed that for, I don't know, 4 or so years running. And at some point I just sort of got tired of doing that. And the other thing is that the list for the last, I'll say 4 years or so, is been, to me personally, just not all that impressive. I kind of looked through the lists, and there's only been, over the last 4 years or so, maybe 2 or 3 records that I just really wanted. And there's a bunch of, and I'm not going to say it's crap because it's records that I'm sure other people are excited about and want, just not my stuff. But there's some other stuff that's sort of, I wouldn't mind having that. It'd be kind of cool, but if I get it, I get it. If I don't, it's no big deal. I'm not exactly turning cartwheels over getting it. So what I started doing, and actually in the past 3 4 years or something, there's been at least 2 record store days where I just didn't bother to go. And again, I'm not running down record store day. I'm not saying that it's over or it's crap or people that like it are dumb or poo-pooing on it in any way. If you're still into it, if you're having fun with it and getting joy out of it, that's what it's all about. And God bless you and have a great time with it. I'm just saying, for me personally, just sort of been getting less and less interested in it over the past several years. So what I started doing, and there's 2 record store day events each year. So I think I'd say over the last 4 years, maybe 3 5 years, whatever, instead of doing the show up at 4 or 5 in the morning, or show up, if they're opening at 8 in the morning, show up at 7:30 or whatever, I've just taken the attitude that, I'll just go at noon or 1 or 2 o'clock that day. And yeah, if there's something I want, it might already be gone and pretty picked over otherwise in the stock. But that's okay, And that's worked out well. So I go to, there's 3 record stores that I go to on a regular basis here in the area. One of them, Record Town, they don't really do record store day. A little bit they do, but not really. Doc's in Fort Worth does it up big, and Forever Young Records in Grand Prairie, which is a town close to Fort Worth, they do it really big. I had gone to Doc's forever because Forever Young has a ton of stock. They tend to get more than Doc's, but Forever Young is also more expensive than Doc's. They're not shy about their prices out there. And of course, that's another thing over the years with record store days, is the prices of records just keep going up and up and up. And I mean, prices of everything, especially this last year or so. But, and anyway, so I had been doing that and it worked out fine. I've actually been going to Doc's the last few years because they tend to get more stock. So if you go, I've actually been going to Forever Young Records the last few years because they get more stock than Doc's does. So if you go to Doc's at 1 or 2, pretty picked over. If you go to Forever Young, they still tend to have a pretty good selection of stuff. So, and that worked out well because all the people that are really into it, like I used to be, they show up at 6 p.m. the night before or midnight or whatever, and so they're right there at the door at 8 o'clock when Forever Young opens. But then they go through there and get their records and wait in line and go all crazy. But by noon, 1 o'clock or so, that crowd's run through there and they're out of there. At least that was the case the last, like I said, 4 years or so. So I would go in there noon or 1, and there'd still be people in the store, but not a huge crowd, and there would still be a decent stock of records for record store day stuff. And like I said, the list for the last 5 or so years have just been less and less impressive to me personally. So there really has been very little that I just couldn't do without. And there's been, again, a few things that I was like, well, I mean, if it's around, I might pick it up. If it's not, you know. And that's another thing. Early on in Record Store Day, back in 2010, 11 or whatever, I sort of, my eyes bigger than my stomach, and I ended up buying a whole lot of records that I listened to once or twice and sat over there, and they're collecting dust, and I haven't listened to them again. Because when you're in the moment, you've got the things picked out that you really want, but then you're seeing those other things and saying maybe, but well, hell, I'm here. Yeah, why not? Let me get that, and then you regret it later. So I've become a lot more discerning as to just not buying something unless it's something that I really want or something that I think I'm actually going to listen to more than a couple of times or whatever. But so yeah, but I would go there the last few years at noon or so. Not a big crowd in the store. Still a pretty good selection of RSD titles, and generally speaking, got what I wanted. Last November, I really wanted a copy of the Bing Crosby and David Bowie Little Drummer Boy that was on the 12-inch single record, and they didn't have any of those. And I went to Doc's and they didn't have any. I still haven't gotten it. I've got it otherwise, so it's not a big deal. It's just something to be cool to have. This year, I looked at the list. There was a few things that I kind of liked, and I should have looked at the list before I did this video because now I can't remember what they are, to be honest. And otherwise, there just wasn't that much. So last Saturday, I'm out running around grocery store, other errands, and it's about 12:30, and I thought, yeah, I'll go ahead and go to Doc's. And I almost wasn't. The reason that I went really was a girl at work, some rap singer guy, Post Dope or Post Malone or something like that, she's into, and I happened to notice that he had a record on the record list, and I told her about that and said, you should go out and get that because she likes that guy. But anyway, she asked if I'd pick it up for her and she'd pay me back, and I said, well, yeah, if I go out there, I'll get it for you. Why not? I've heard the guy. I don't know what the song is on the Record Store Day, but anyway, I picked it up for her, and but I got out there at about 12:50, 1 o'clock, and whereas in previous years it had been 10, 20 people in the store, there's a big ass line still, and they're still handing out numbers where you've got to wait to get your turn to go through look at the Record Store Day stock. And here it's on me because it's my own fault. I should have just turned around and left. But I thought, well, okay, give me a number. And I had number 480, and there was a guy up there calling out numbers. He's letting 2 or 3 people in at a time to look at the stuff, and sort of wait and see what number he calls. So he calls out he's on like 298, and I'm like, oh balls, I'm like 182 people away. Should have left. But I thought, well, I don't know how quick they're going through the line, so you could not go over there where the Record Store Day stuff was, but you could go in all the rest of the store, and Forever Young is a big store. It's been around since the early 80s or something. And so I thought, well, I'll just go look at some other records, CDs and stuff, and just hang out for a while. So I did that. And then some guy and girl, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever they were, came up to me, and they had like number 412. And they said, yeah, we're not going to wait. We're out of here. You want our number? And I said, oh, thank you. So got bumped up like 70, 60, whatever spots. So I hung out a while, finally got called, and I got through the line, went through, and just sort of looking at what they had left, and they did have a ton of stuff left, but it was kind of like and A lot of that stuff just doesn't interest me. And I'm not, if other people like it and want it, it's like, the Ringo album, Stop and Smell the Roses, $39. And yeah, okay, it's on double album with some extra outtakes, and it's on colored vinyl, and that's really cool. But I'm not spending $40 for that. And I've got that album. I've had that album for decades, just the regular album that I bought at a record store back when I was 16 or whatever it was when it came out. And it's an okay album. I like it. I listen to it sometimes, but yeah, I just don't want a repress of it. The Paul McCartney's Half Speed Master of Red Rose Speedway. Yeah, I got 2 copies of that album. I don't need a third. And so things like that don't interest me. What interests me on Record Store Day have been things that you can't otherwise get or haven't been released, and things that personally appeal to me that I'm going to actually play through the years, because I still have quite a few Record Store Day titles that I bought 5, 10, 8, 9, 11 years ago that I still listen to. And John Lennon, the 10 white wax EPs or whatever for $400, and I've got that album anyway. It looks neat, but I'm not gonna spend that kind of money. And even if I did, it'd go on my shelf and collect dust forever. So, you know, but I mean, if you like that, if you want that, that's great. I'm not saying uh, anything wrong with it. Just sort of whatever. So I looked through the line. Then I picked out some titles, got 3 records, and then you had to wait to pay, and that was like an hour and a half wait to stand in line to pay for your records. So didn't leave a good taste in my mouth, and I'm thinking from here on out, I'll still look at the list. I mean, if there's something that I'm just dying to have, if they put out Carnival of Light or something, or some of those Ringo albums that never came out on vinyl that were only released on CD. But even at that, I'm thinking I can just wait and get it on eBay or get it down the road or something. Uh, because here's the other thing. I mean, especially with somewhat at Docs, but especially at Forever Young Records, they just get so many copies of that stuff that they leave their Record Store Day stuff in its own section for like a week or so after each Record Store Day. And then after that, they just put it out in the regular store under whatever the artist is. So, for example, 2 or 3 years ago, they had the Half Speed Master of the McCartney album for Record Store Day, and they had Rolling Stones album Metamorphosis on green vinyl, and they had like 40 or 50 titles of each of those. They didn't sell them all, and they were there for weeks. And even now, you can go to that store, and even those titles came out 2, 3, 4 years ago. And you go to the McCartney section, you go to the Rolling Stones section, and they still have those albums in there that they didn't sell that you can buy. So, you know, it's not like, and that's the other thing with Record Store Day. There's a couple of things. There's the exclusive to that day, supposedly, and then there's the first release, which means sort of like back in the day when you used to get a sneak preview of a movie. You could go see it on this Friday night, but the movie wasn't actually opening for its general run until a week or 2 later. It's kind of cool to do when we were kids. So the first release is like this record. You can get it on Record Store Day, but it's going to come out for general release, just not for another couple of weeks or month or couple of months. Well, why not just wait for a month or 2 to get it then? Except every once in a while it'll be like, okay, this is going to be a first release, but it's going to be on colored vinyl. It's going to be numbered. It's going to have a poster or something. And then when it comes out for general release in a month, it's not going to be colored vinyl, not going to be numbered, not going to have the post. So, okay, sure. But then I was looking at the Red Rose Speedway record, which is already for sale on McCartney's website and has been for a month or so, or a couple of weeks. And I'm like, well, there's no, I don't see that there's any, this isn't that I can see on colored vinyl or anything different than what's going to be just general release. So what's the point? But anyway, hold on, here's dumb computer. Uh, I hate technology. Yeah, we go. Sorry about that. A little glitch in the computer. Anyway, and then, I mean, there's other things like that. They'll say that these records on the list are limited to 1,000 copies or 2,000 or 5,000, but then you go into Docs and they've got like 30 copies. You go into Forever Young and they've got 50 or 60 copies, and then I'm thinking, well, if there's only 1,000 of these and there's record stores all over Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso, and then you say out to the United States and LA, New York, Chicago, all that, the math just doesn't add up. And I'm thinking, I don't know, is this, how do we really know that they're saying they print 2,000 of these, but they don't really print double that or something? I'm not saying they do or they don't, or trying to cause a conspiracy, but you do kind of wonder sometimes when you see something's limited to 1,000 copies supposedly worldwide, and you go in your record store and they've got like 50 of them. So I don't know. Anyway, enough of that. So yeah, in the years to come, I'm either going to go like on the next day, Sunday, if I go at all, or if there's anything I just really want, I'll just get it off eBay, and I can wait. That's the other thing. I still can't. I do kind of look for fun to see after each record store day what people are paying for like the John Lennon box set. Another reason the big crowd was there this year, I think, was because there was some Taylor Swift record that everybody or a lot of people were after, and so that that caused a big crowd. But anyway, look to see what those things are selling for, and I still can't believe people will pay $100 for like a $20 or $30 record when all you got to do is hold off for 6 months or a year, go on eBay then, and people will be selling them for the same price that you could have got it at the record store on that day. Because all those record store days are supposedly so special edition and limited numbers and all that. 98% of those things never go up in value outside of like the first couple of weeks after record store day, when people are willing to pay, $100, $150, $200 for a record they could have got for $20 or $30 if they had got it in the store. But very few of those things have appreciated in value after that. And so just wait 6 months. If it's something you wanted and it's good right now, it's going to be good in 6 months or a year. So, what did I get for record store day after all that rambling on? I got 3 albums, 2 of them record store day titles, one of them just a regular store title that when I was in line for that hour and a half, happened to be standing by the bin and looked over and saw it and picked it up because it was something I was meaning to order anyway, and there it was, so I went ahead and got it. Just took a chance on a couple of things because, like I said, there were a couple of things that I kind of wanted, but they weren't there. I don't remember the titles now off the top of my head. And the stuff I looked through, there were a few things I kind of halfway considered, but I did take just a sort of flying blind on one of the titles and sort of flying blind on the other. And so that's the other thing. You look through the list and you see all the stuff, but every record store day, maybe it's just me, maybe I just didn't read the list close enough, but it seems like there's some things that are there that weren't on the list that just sort of show up. 1 or 2 titles, and this was one of them. I don't remember seeing this on the list, but it's the Tom Tom Club album from 1981. I think this came out, and Genius of Love, of course, is a classic 80s song that everybody knows and has been used in a lot of movies and commercials and stuff in the years since then. But Tina Weymouth, I don't know if that's how you say her name, the bass player, from the Talking Heads, and Chris France, who was I think that's how you say his name. I'm not sure. I think they were boyfriend, girlfriend, or married. Maybe they still are. But they were both in the Talking Heads, and so this was kind of a solo effort they put out. So I knew Genius of Love and Wordy Rapping Hood is about the only two songs. I never bought this album back in the 80s, even though I did like those two songs from when they're on the radio and all. I just never picked it up. So I do remember seeing the show Stop Making Sense, the movie Stop Making Sense, the live Talking Heads concert that came out in 84, 85 in the theater, and they did a couple of songs off this album. But other than that, I'd never really heard this album or bought it. So I thought, well, I like the Talking Heads, and I like the couple of songs off of this that I've heard, so I'll go ahead and get it. It's, I don't know if this is a exclusive or a first release, because I don't remember seeing it on the list. It's not numbered or anything, but it's a nice package. It's a double album, and a nice gatefold. And there's Chris from the Talking Heads. There's Tina from the Talking Heads. I don't really know who these other people are, but you get a and I played this, and it's a really good album. Outside of Genius and Love and Wordy Rapping Hood, the other songs are quite good. So there's some new liner notes about the recently written, just from Chris and Tina, just remembering back when they made the album all those 40 some years ago, which is hard to believe it was that long ago. And anyway, and then the two albums are on a kind of a pink vinyl, bubblegum vinyl, something like that. So this is the album of extras and demos and B-sides or whatever, and the regular album is over on my record player because I was listening to it yesterday. So did know a couple of songs off of that, but otherwise was a blind buy. This one was a complete blind buy, and so it is The Stair Steps, Second Resurrection, which is on George Harrison's Dark Horse label, which I think was, they kind of revived Dark Horse, and they've added people like Joe Strummer and some other people on their new imprint that were never originally on Dark Horse back in the 70s. But I think these guys, there's like George Harrison and Splinter and these guys and Ravi Shankar and a couple other people that were originally. But so I didn't know what this was, but it's soul music in the 70s. You can't go wrong with that. And it's co-produced by Billy Preston. So again, can't go wrong there. It is on Dark Horse label and on gold vinyl. Kind of nice. It's not numbered or anything. And I think this might be a Record Store Day exclusive thing, not a first release. Again, I'm not sure. I listened to this, and it's pretty good. It's sort of that mid. I think the album originally came out in '76 or so, but it's sort of that era of soul music, sort of smooth soul and pretty good stuff. It's I liked it. I played it a couple of times, enjoyed it. I think it's one of the albums where you're going to have to play it a handful of times, and it's going to sink in more and more the more you listen to it. Not greatness just yet anyway, but pretty good stuff. Tom Tom Club is really good stuff. The non-Record Store Day title that I got while I was standing in line, like I said, I was going to order this, and it was there, so I just got it. And the Zombies' new album, which is called Different Game, which just came out like a month or two ago. And this is their, they had done an album 2 or 3 years ago, and I think an album a couple of years before that. And I don't know that they'd done any new albums past Odyssey and Oracle back in 1968 until these. They might have done some in the 80s or something, I'm not sure. So I saw this, I got an email about it a month or so ago, and just thought, okay, Zombies have a new album out. You know, these guys are 80 years old. How good could it be? but it had a couple of YouTube clips of 3 or 4 of the songs. Thought, well, I'll give it a listen. Heard the first song, quite liked it. Played the second and the third, and said, yeah, this is pretty good. Um, Really good album. And if you want a fuller review, Sam St. John, who's a YouTube standby, and Giggins, who's another famous YouTuber here, they both reviewed this album, gave it really high marks, and they go really in depth on the songs. Other than hearing it on those YouTube clips a couple of weeks ago, I haven't had a chance to play this yet, so I can't really comment on it. But what I did hear, I was Odyssey and Oracle. No, it's not that level of, at least not yet, as far as I've heard. But it's just really good and really solid, and surprisingly better than you would expect from a band that broke up in 1968 and got back together, and the members are 70 or 80 years old. So I'm looking forward to playing that. And there's some notes on the back about how the album came to be from Rod Argent. I think they were kind of recorded this during a lot of the COVID stuff, and lyrics. But what's cool is, and I think you can get this on red and black vinyl, but there's that really pretty blue with the custom made Zombies label. So that's what I got for Record Store Day. I don't know what I'm going to do in the future regarding it, but like I said, I think I'm going to decelerate markedly as far as my involvement with it. And just, if there's something I want, I'll get it by and by. And if I don't, I'm old. It doesn't matter if I never get it at this point. So life will go on or not. But glad that everybody else seems to have had a good Record Store Day, and have enjoyed watching all of the videos of people's pickups and Record Store Day experiences. Take care. We'll talk to you later.